My name is Caleb Rourke, and I was the fool who thought he married his best friend. You never expect your life to fall apart in a sentence. Not a confrontation, not a blowout, just a sentence. A few words tossed into the air like a joke. That's what did it. That's what snapped the thread I didn't even know was holding me together. I was supposed to be out of town that weekend, guy's trip to Lake Shelburne. I'd been planning it for months. Tessa knew about it. Even helped me pack. Said I needed the break. You deserve a little fun, she'd said, smiling like she meant it. But the trip fell through at the last minute. Tobias's kid came down with a fever, and the rest of the guys bailed one by one. So I thought, why not surprise her? Come home early, bring her takeout, maybe a bottle of that white wine she liked. I missed her. 8 years married, and I still missed her after 2 days. That should have meant something. I pulled into our driveway around 9 p.m. The house was lit up like a holiday. Porch lights, kitchen glow, silhouettes dancing through the blinds. That wasn't unusual. Tessa loved hosting. Her girls, Jade, Marlene, a few others, were always coming around. It was probably just a wine night. No big deal. Still, I didn't go through the front door. I crept around the side gate, toward the back deck, figuring I'd sneak up and surprise her. Maybe catch her mid-laugh, looking carefree and happy. I had this image in my head, her wrapped in that soft gray cardigan, curled up on the patio couch, cheeks flushed from Pinot Grigio and gossip. I missed that version of her. Or maybe I missed the version of me who believed in her. The closer I got, the louder the laughter became. Not gentle chuckles, full-on, tipsy cackles, like high school girls after too much vodka. I could hear glasses clinking, someone popping a cork, Marlene yelling about her ex's tiny manhood. Then Tessa's voice cut through, sharp and clear. Caleb's too stupid to realize I've been cheating on him for years. Silence. Then, laughter. Not polite laughter. Not uncertain or shocked. Roaring, full-bellied, vindictive laughter. My heart didn't shatter, it just stopped. For a second, I stood there thinking maybe I misheard. Maybe she said, chatting, not cheating. Maybe this was one of those edgy, sarcastic jokes couples made. But no, I knew that tone. That glee. She was proud. She wanted them to know. Wanted them to laugh with her. Seriously, she went on. I slept with Marshall the night before his dad's funeral. Told him I had food poisoning. He made me soup. And again, laughter. Applause, even. I didn't move. Couldn't. My feet were cemented to the dirt beside the lilac bushes we planted last spring. I stared at the patio through the slats of the wooden railing, at the women who used to smile at me and say I was such a good guy. I watched my wife, the woman who once vowed in front of God and everyone we knew to love and honor me, lift her glass and toast to her own betrayal. My name. My life. Torn apart in a single sentence. I don't remember walking back to the car. I don't remember turning the key or backing out of the driveway. I just remember the heat in my chest and the cold in my hands. I remember gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from disintegrating. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my phone at the windshield like they do in the movies. I drove. Just drove. Ended up in a Target parking lot 10 miles away, sitting in the dark like a ghost with the engine idling. For a long time, I just stared at the sliding glass doors. People came and went, mothers with strollers, couples holding hands, a man juggling a six-pack and frozen pizza. Their lives hadn't changed tonight. Mine had been flipped inside out. That's when the nausea hit. Not the kind that makes you puke, worse. The kind that lives in your ribs and your spine, makes your skin feel too tight. The kind that whispers, you were never enough. You never saw it coming. I reached for my phone with a shaking hand and called Tobias. Yo, he answered, voice low. I could hear cartoons in the background. His kid was probably still up. Hey, I said. My voice cracked. You home? Yeah. What's up? I need a place to crash. He didn't ask why. Tobias was like that. I think he already knew from the silence between my words. He just said, doors unlocked. Come through. And I drove again. Not back to the house. Not to the woman who had laughed while turning my life into a punchline. I drove to my friend's place. To the only person who would look me in the eye without pity or performance. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on Tobias's couch while his son snored down the hall, and I stared at the ceiling. Not because I was broken, because something inside me was waking up. Something quiet. Something sharp. I didn't storm in. I didn't scream. I didn't give her the satisfaction of catching me shattered. No, I walked away, numb, shaking, and barely breathing. My hands were on the steering wheel, but I couldn't feel them. My whole body buzzed like I was underwater. My chest felt hollow. I remember the street lights blurring through my windshield like streaks of smeared paint. I kept telling myself to breathe, but it didn't work. I was breathing in pieces, like the air was made of glass. The first place I found to land was a Target parking lot, glowing under those fluorescent lamps that made everything feel artificially calm. I pulled into a space far from the entrance, killed the engine, and just sat there in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't move. My fingers gripped the wheel like it might anchor me to a version of reality that made sense. But that version had evaporated. It was gone the second my name left her lips, soaked in laughter and betrayal. I don't know how long I sat there. Time didn't move normally anymore. I could have been there for 5 minutes or 50. At some point, I took out my phone and stared at the screen. No messages from her. No missed calls. Of course not. She didn't even know I'd been there. She was probably still drunk with her friends, pouring another glass of wine, bragging about Marshall Dane and laughing at me again. Marshall Dane. That name burned like acid in my brain. A coworker, sort of. A consultant from one of her previous projects. She mentioned him a few times in passing over the years. Marshall this, Marshall that. I never gave it much thought. Just another name in her orbit. I had no idea he'd wormed his way deeper. I had no clue that the man she claimed was just a work friend had been in our bed, maybe not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and eventually, literally. And the worst part? She slept with him the night before my dad's funeral. While I was grieving, while I was on the phone with the mortuary, trying to book flights for family members, while I was drafting a eulogy through blurry eyes, she was with him. I remember that day so clearly now. I came home early, panicked because she hadn't answered my texts. She was pale, curled on the couch with a throw blanket over her legs, claiming food poisoning. I ran to the kitchen, made her soup, rubbed her back. I kissed her forehead and told her not to worry about coming to the service if she wasn't up to it. I believed her. King believed her. I opened my contact list, scrolled to Tobias, and hit call. He picked up on the second ring. Caleb. I tried to speak, but all I got out was, I need to talk to you. You okay? No. You want to come over? Yeah. Come on, he said. I'll be up. And that was it. I drove in silence. The roads were dark and empty. The whole world felt empty, like it had been scooped out. When I pulled up to Tobias's place, he was waiting at the door in sweatpants, hoodie on, phone still in his hand. No questions at first. Just a look and a nod. He stepped aside, and I walked in. I sat on his couch, the same one we'd played video games on in college, the same one where we'd eaten greasy wings and complained about taxes and rent and life. But tonight, it felt different. He handed me a beer. I didn't drink it. She's cheating, I said. Tobias didn't flinch. You sure? She said it. To her friends. Laughed about it. Said I was too stupid to ever notice. He cursed under his breath. Jesus. And get this, I continued, laughing bitterly, Marshall Dane. That smug bastard from her old project. She was with him the night before my dad's funeral. Damn, man. She told me she had food poisoning. I made her king soup. We sat in silence. He looked like he wanted to say something comforting, something to ease the weight pressing down on me, but there wasn't anything that could. So instead, he got up, came back with his laptop, and placed it on the coffee table. What are you doing? I asked. Helping, he said simply. We're not going to sit here and let her keep winning. You need a plan. First things first, divorce lawyer. I know a guy, but we'll look around. Someone brutal. Someone who knows how to dig and fight. I nodded. Not because I was ready, but because I had to be. That night, while his kids snored in the other room and a muted TV played reruns in the background, we built the blueprint for my escape. Tobias pulled up legal forms, local attorney reviews, posts from men who had gone through the same hell and made it out. At 3 a.m., I was still wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Not crying, not breaking down, thinking, replaying everything. I love you, she'd whispered while texting him. Every dinner she said she had to cancel because of meetings. Every time I kissed her goodnight, and she rolled over with a fake sigh. I hadn't just lost my wife. I'd lost the illusion of who I thought she was. And now, I was going to take my life back, one cold, calculated step at a time. I returned home the next day like nothing happened. It took everything in me to do it, but I walked through that front door with the same keys I'd always used. wearing the same expression I wore every other tired Sunday. I dropped my overnight bag in the foyer like I hadn't spent the night plotting an escape route from the woman I once thought would grow old with me. Tessa was in the kitchen when I came in, barefoot, robes slipping from one shoulder, a coffee cup dangling from her fingers. She glanced up and gave me this half smile, the kind you toss to a roommate, not a husband. "Hey, you're back early. I thought you weren't coming in till Monday." I shrugged like it didn't matter. Trip fell through. Tobias's kid got sick. She rolled her eyes. Figures. Men and their fragile plans. I leaned against the counter, studying her. The way she moved like nothing had happened. No guilt. No hesitation. She even had the audacity to gesture toward the mess of wine glasses and pizza boxes still cluttering the dining room table. "Those girls are animals," she said, grimacing. "I've been cleaning up after them all morning. You'd think they were raised in a barn." I nodded. "That bad, huh?" "Worse." She took a sip of her coffee, then kissed me on the cheek, just a soft brush of her lips, like she didn't even think about it. Like she hadn't dismantled our marriage with one drunken confession. I smiled. Not because I was okay, but because I had a job to do. Over the next few days, I kept up the act. I asked about her day. I brought home her favorite takeout. I rubbed her shoulders when she complained about stress. But while she was texting Marshall under the table, I was laying the foundation for her fall. It started with the phone. Tessa never put a password on it. Arrogance. Trust? Laziness. I wasn't sure, and I didn't care. While she was in the shower one night, I slipped it off the nightstand, heart pounding like I was stealing government secrets. But what I found was worse than anything I imagined. She wasn't hiding it. Not really. She just didn't think I'd ever look. There were texts with Marshall. Not just flirting, explicit stuff. Pictures. Plans. The hotel receipts stung the most. There was one from a hotel barely 10 minutes from our house. 2 nights after our anniversary. Happy F***King anniversary. I forwarded everything to myself, screenshots, timestamps, even the goddamn lingerie purchases from our joint credit card. She was using our money to cheat on me. I was paying for her betrayal. I documented it all. Created a folder, labeled it something benign, Tax Docs 2023, and backed it up to the cloud in 2 external drives. Then I found her travel calendar. She was planning another weekend retreat in 2 weeks. A work trip, she said. But there it was, confirmation emails, reservations, texts to Marshall about what she'd pack. It was like she wanted to be caught. Like she was daring the universe to expose her. That's when I found Elira Grant. I'd read about her in a men's forum online, one of those brutally honest support groups for men navigating betrayal. Her name came up again and again. A divorce lawyer with the demeanor of a guillotine. Sleek, professional, and utterly merciless in court. She'd made headlines a year ago for representing a CEO who divorced his wife after catching her embezzling from their company. She got him the house, the cars, and custody of the dog. I scheduled a consultation. She didn't offer sympathy. She didn't pat my shoulder or call me brave. She read through my evidence silently, flipping page by page with the same expression a surgeon might wear while examining a bullet wound. When she finished, she looked up and said, "Do you want justice or revenge?" I said, "What's the difference?" She smiled. "Justice ends in court. Revenge lingers. I want both. Then let's bury her." That night, I went home and kissed my wife on the forehead. She was curled up on the couch watching some stupid reality show, texting Marshall every 5 minutes, eyes lighting up every time his name popped up. I didn't flinch. I sat beside her, handed her a bowl of popcorn, and asked if she wanted to watch something else. She said, "You're sweet. I'm lucky to have you." And I said, "You really are." But inside, the last version of myself, the one who still clung to the idea that she might have been a good person once, died. Right there on that couch. The same couch where we watched movies the night I proposed. The same couch where we cried together the day we thought we'd lost our first pregnancy. That couch had held 8 years of love, laughter, and pain. And now? Now it was just a piece of furniture. A stage for betrayal. And I was done being the audience. They say ghosts haunt houses, but I became one inside mine. For the next 2 weeks, I operated in silence, slipping between shadows, a phantom in the life I used to live. Every morning, I made coffee like I always did. Poured hers into the pink travel mug she loved. Kissed her on the forehead before she left for work. But the man she kissed goodbye didn't exist anymore. He died the night she laughed about cheating. She didn't notice. At night, she curled up beside me in bed, tapping away on her phone with her back turned. Sometimes I watched her screen in the reflection of the window. Can't wait to taste you again. He has no idea. Still using his money. I memorized it all. The words didn't hurt anymore. They enraged me. Each syllable another coal fueling the furnace inside me. She thought she was safe because I didn't confront her. She mistook my silence for stupidity, my composure for weakness. But I was busy. I was securing my accounts first, changing passwords, moving funds, separating my paycheck into a new, undisclosed account. One by one, I removed her access. I opened a new credit card in my name alone, shut down our joint one. I left hers active for now, just enough rope to let her hang herself financially. Let her keep spending. Let her think she had control. I called our financial advisor, posed as someone curious about investment options. In the background, I was documenting everything. I needed no loose ends. I'd heard too many horror stories of men caught flat-footed, stripped of everything because they reacted instead of preparing. Meanwhile, I signed a lease. A 2-bedroom apartment in Midtown. Nothing flashy. Just clean, quiet, and mine. I furnished it piece by piece using a burner card. Sleek couch. Basic desk. A bed that hadn't been shared with someone who said, "I love you," while messaging another man. I'd come home at night and eat dinner like usual. But during my lunch breaks and odd hours when she thought I was working late, I was building my future in that new space, hanging art, unpacking cutlery, setting up a life that didn't include her. She didn't notice a thing. She was too distracted. One day, while sitting beside me on the couch, she let out an annoyed sigh. Ugh. My card got declined at Soul Spa today. I had to Venmo Jade to cover the appointment. I looked up from my laptop, all innocent concern. Really? That's weird. She rolled her eyes. Probably a stupid bank error. You'll call them. Of course, I said. I'll handle it tomorrow. She smiled, kissed my cheek. You're the best. And I nodded, because she had no idea the stage she was standing on was crumbling beneath her. I wasn't just leaving. I was orchestrating her collapse. Quietly. Carefully. The way you dismantle a bomb slowly, methodically, making sure every wire is accounted for. At night, she whispered, "I love you," as she drifted to sleep. And I whispered it back, with the same emotion I reserved for spam emails. There were moments, fleeting ones, when guilt tried to sneak in. I'd see a photo of us from 3 years ago, smiling on some beach in Cabo, her arms wrapped around my neck like she meant it. I'd remember her singing off-key in the kitchen, making pancakes on Sunday mornings. I'd remember the night she held me while I cried after my dad's funeral, saying she'd never leave me. But then I'd remember that she already had long before I even knew it. The version of her in those memories didn't exist anymore. If she ever did. One night, while she was in the shower singing, oblivious, I sat on our bed with her phone again. Another round of screenshots. Hotel reservations for the coming weekend. A receipt for a bottle of Glenfiddich and 2 glasses. Lingerie shipped to a P.O. box. I forwarded everything to Alira. She replied within 10 minutes, perfect. Keep her talking. We need one last trigger before I file. So I did. At dinner, I asked about her trip. Where's the conference again? Denver, she said casually, scooping salad onto her plate. 3 days. Really boring stuff. You want me to pack your charger this time? You always forget it. She beamed. God, you're so thoughtful. I smiled. I try. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. And all I could think was, you'll never see it coming. I spent that night at the apartment, staring at the ceiling in my new bed. I didn't sleep. I planned. Every inch of the war. Every silent move. Every step she thought I was too blind, too soft, too trusting to ever make. She didn't realize the man beside her had become something else. Something colder. Stronger. Smarter. She didn't realize she was sleeping next to the architect of her downfall. And I just kept smiling. The day the walls caved in didn't begin with thunder. It began with sunshine. Tessa was in a good mood that morning, floating around the kitchen in her favorite silk robe, humming something off-key while she stirred oat milk into her coffee. Her hair was curled just the way she liked it for events, soft, deliberate waves that took hours but looked effortless. She was glowing, radiating anticipation. Today was her big client appreciation gala, a professional flex she'd been planning for months. The venue was upscale, the guest list elite, and every detail meticulously obsessed over. She was beaming, oblivious, walking straight into the fire. I'm gonna head out early, she said between sips. Still gotta run through the checklist with the event team before everyone shows up. Want me to drop by later? I asked casually, folding a napkin at the counter. She smiled brightly, touched my arm. No, baby. It's mostly for clients. Boring, schmoozy stuff. I nodded. All right. Knock, am dead. She kissed me, full lips, full lie, and breezed out the door like a woman who believed she had the world in her hands. I waited exactly 5 minutes, then pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the message thread with Lena Dane, Marshall's wife. The evidence package I'd curated for weeks had just been delivered to her inbox. Photos, texts, screenshots, hotel receipts, and even a printout of the lingerie invoice. Elira helped me draft the cover note, professional but brutal. Lena had suspected for months. She told me during our single hushed phone call 2 days ago, but she had no proof. Until now. Her voice trembled when she thanked me. Told me she didn't know whether to cry or scream. Said she felt like she could finally stop questioning her sanity. We made a pact. Today was Judgment Day. For both of them. I waited. At noon, Tessa's phone, still synced to the cloud, began erupting. A storm of texts came in like a hail of bullets. Jade asking if the rumors were true, Marlene sending question marks, her assistant calling, her boss demanding clarification. One from Marshall himself. What did you do? I imagined her face draining of color as her perfect world began to slip. The smile cracking. The mask falling. Then, at 2 p.m., just as the event was kicking into gear, another alert came in, this time from the venue coordinator. I had copied her on the email to Lena for one very intentional reason. I wanted a witness. They canceled her event. Out of respect to all parties involved, the coordinator wrote. And due to overwhelming inquiries regarding your personal scandal now affecting our brand. I imagined Tessa surrounded by flower arrangements and floating banners, her phone vibrating endlessly, her carefully curated life unraveling like a cheap thread pulled too far. She left by 2:15 p.m. I was already home by then, seated on the living room couch in my clean clothes, a calm storm in a tidy house. On the table in front of me, a cream envelope waited. Inside, her divorce papers. Final, official, and soaked in silent fury. Elira's words echoed in my head as I placed them gently, deliberately, in the center of the table like a chess piece. When Tessa came through the door at 6 p.m., mascara smeared, hair limp, she looked like a child caught in a lie. Her purse dropped with a thud on the floor as she froze in the entryway, I starting to mine. I didn't rise. I didn't flinch. What did you do? She croaked. I didn't speak. I just tilted my head toward the table. She stepped closer, hands shaking as she picked up the envelope. She opened it. Read the first page. Then the second. Then the third. Her knees nearly buckled. You knew, she whispered, voice hollow. I stood slowly. Looked her dead in the eyes. For weeks. Tears streamed down her face. Caleb, please. I was drunk. I didn't mean. No, I said sharply. You meant it. You just never thought I'd hear it. I didn't think. You didn't care. I cut in. You lied. Over and over. You used me. Mocked me. You celebrated your betrayal with your friends like it was a party game. She sank to the floor, the papers trembling in her hands. I don't want a divorce. Please don't do this. We can fix it. I can fix it. No, I said again, quieter now. You can't fix something you set on fire and danced around. I gave you years. You gave me humiliation. She sobbed then. Big, choking cries that once would have broken me. Now they felt like theater. Like noise. I leaned down, just enough to meet her eyes. You always thought I was too quiet. Too trusting. Too simple. But you forgot one thing. She blinked up at me. I listen, I said. And I remember. I turned and walked away, not to pack a bag, not to storm out in anger, but to brush my teeth. To go on with my night. The game was over. Her applause had stopped. The mask had cracked beyond repair. And I finally felt clean. Tessa unraveled faster than I expected. The first few days, she tried to play it cool. Like she was just overwhelmed. Like the gala fiasco was some freak PR incident she'd recover from. She posted a carefully filtered photo on Instagram of a cappuccino and croissant. Captioned it, resetting. Grateful for the lessons. The kind of faux-in performance people put on when they're too terrified to show their world is crumbling. But behind the scenes, it was falling apart fast. Her friends, Marlene and Jade, ghosted. Blocked her on socials within a week. Marlene posted some vague caption about real friends don't drag you into scandals, and Jade, who once told me I was husband goals, unfollowed Tessa and followed me instead. I didn't follow back. I wasn't interested in the social media aftermath. I was watching the real thing. Her clients began pulling out of contracts. I saw the emails flash across the screen while her phone still pinged to the cloud. Given the recent attention, we've decided to go in another direction, one after the other, like dominoes falling in an echo chamber. The empire she built on curated charm and curated lies was turning into dust in her hands. And her parents? That was the kicker. They called me. Not me. Her mother sobbed into the phone. Caleb, we didn't know. We swear, if we had even the slightest idea. I kept my voice level. I believe you. Her father, more measured, more humiliated, said, if there's anything we can do to support you, please don't hesitate. Funny. A year ago, they looked at me like I'd married up. Like I should have been grateful to be welcomed into their shiny, suburban dynasty. Now, they were apologizing to me. And I didn't take pleasure in it. Not really. It just proved how far she'd fallen. Even her roots were pulling away from her. Marshall disowned her almost immediately. That wasn't a surprise. Lena had taken my package of evidence and used it like a scalpel. She'd filed for full custody of their 2 kids and had receipts, timelines, and damning proof in her corner. From what I heard, he offered Tessa nothing more than a panicked voicemail and a blocked number. So she started to crack. At first, it was quiet, just the stares. She'd look at me from across the room with this expression like she didn't recognize me anymore. Like the man who used to beg her to come to bed early and binge old sitcoms with him had been replaced with someone colder, untouchable. Then came the swings. Some mornings, she'd knock gently on my bedroom door, the guest room, which I'd claimed as mine weeks ago, holding coffee, wearing that cardigan I once loved. She'd sit at the foot of the bed, teary-eyed, whispering, I don't know who I am without you. She'd reach for my hand, try to lace our fingers together like old times. And other nights, she'd scream. Loud, ugly shouts from behind the closed door of our old room. You're not a saint, Caleb. You think you're so noble, but you're just as fake as I was. I wouldn't respond. I didn't need to. She wasn't speaking to me. She was screaming at the version of me she thought would break. But that man was long gone. She tried one more Hail Mary. She booked a dinner reservation for 2. Left the details printed and taped to the fridge, circled in red ink. Let's try again. Just talk. I didn't show. She called 10 times that night. I let every ring die in silence. Then came the texts. You don't even care. You're ruining everything. We can fix this if you just try. You think you're better than me now? She still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't me trying to hurt her. This was me reclaiming peace. I watched her world shrink around her. The car payments became inconsistent. The rent notice arrived one morning in a pink envelope. She'd blown through savings fast. Years of frivolous brunches, spa trips, shopping splurges, and now, no clients to fund the facade. The house we once shared began to rot from the inside. Dishes sat for days. Dust claimed the corners. Her makeup-stained towel was always slung over the bathroom door like a flag of surrender. Still, she tried to save face. Posted motivational quotes. Growth comes from chaos. Some storms come to clear your path. Bullshit wrapped in filters and self-deception. And then, one rainy Thursday night, she showed up at my new place. She looked like a ghost of herself. Hair stringy. Hoodie too big. Eyes puffy. No makeup. She stood on the threshold like she wasn't sure if the door would open. I was in sweatpants, barefoot, holding a bowl of cereal. Please, she said. Just 5 minutes. I didn't invite her in, but I didn't shut the door either. She stepped in slowly, taking in the space. It was clean, warm, a record playing low in the background. Nothing grand, just peaceful. You really left, she said, voice breaking. You really let me fall. I didn't let you, I said. You jumped. She stood there, silent, rainwater dripping onto the mat. She looked around like she wanted to memorize it. Maybe she thought this was a phase, that I'd eventually come back. She was wrong. This wasn't a pit stop. This was home. A home she could never touch again. She stood in the center of my apartment like a ghost who'd wandered too far from the place she died. Tessa's arms were wrapped around herself, as if trying to physically hold in everything that was unraveling inside her. Her eyes, usually sharp, calculating, were now wide and glassy, swimming in something that looked like real remorse. But I'd learned my lesson. Tears meant nothing anymore. Apologies, even less. The woman standing in front of me was the same woman who said I was too stupid to know. And I hadn't forgotten a single word. I made a mistake, she began, her voice soft, shaky. I was drunk that night. I was just venting. I didn't mean any of it. I set down my cereal bowl on the kitchen counter, took a slow breath, and then walked over to the chair by the window. I sat, leaned forward, and clasped my hands together. She took that as an invitation to keep talking. You don't know what it's like, she went on, pacing now. I felt invisible, unseen, like a piece of furniture in my own marriage. I cocked my head. So that's why you slept with Marshall for 3 years? Because I didn't see you. She stopped, flinched. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I said calmly. You said it with your own mouth, in your own backyard, to your own friends. You laughed about it. She opened her mouth, then shut it. The rain from her hair had started to soak into her hoodie. She looked smaller now, fragile in a way that once might have tugged at my heart. But not anymore. I stood up and walked over to the counter, pulling a folder from the drawer. I didn't slam it down. I didn't wave it like a weapon. I simply handed it to her. What's this? She asked. Your new reality. She opened the folder and blinked. Spreadsheets. Bank statements. Credit card logs. Projected income versus expenses. A chart showing how her business plummeted post-gala. A document showing her debts and her dwindling savings. This is math, I finished. You always hated the numbers, didn't you? You lived off autopay and vibes. Well, that lifestyle's dead now. This is your mirror, Tessa. Take a good look. She sat down on the couch, folder in her lap like it physically weighed her down. For the first time, she didn't try to deflect. She didn't scream, didn't insult me or try to twist my logic. She just stared at the mess she made. After a long silence, she said, I don't know how to fix this. You don't, I said. That's the point. She looked up at me. Her eyes weren't pleading anymore. Just lost. You always thought I was the fool, I continued. The quiet guy. The easy one. The boring husband who would never see what was happening behind his back. But you forgot something. She didn't respond. I stepped closer, meeting her gaze directly. You forgot that quiet doesn't mean stupid. That loyal doesn't mean blind. That love isn't permission. She swallowed hard. You said I was too stupid to ever find out, I said softly. Surprise. Her shoulders collapsed like the words had struck her physically. I thought you'd blow up, she whispered. Yell. Smash things. I was prepared for that. No, you weren't, I said. You were prepared for a scene, not a strategy. And that was the truth. She expected drama. She expected pain she could fight back against. But I hadn't given her the satisfaction. I gave her precision. I gave her silence sharp enough to bleed from. I'm not the same man anymore, I told her. And you don't get to stand in this apartment and pretend we can go back. Tessa nodded slowly. I know. I needed to hear it. You've heard it, I said. Now go. She stood without protest, took the folder, walked to the door. She paused just before opening it. You were a good man, Caleb. I still am, I said. You just stopped deserving me. And with that, she walked out into the rain, folder clutched to her chest, shoulders hunched like someone carrying the weight of her own undoing. I watched her disappear down the hall, the echo of her footsteps fainter with every step. When the door clicked shut behind her, I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. I turned the lock, walked back to my chair by the window, and picked up my cereal. Cold now. Soggy. Still better than anything I'd swallowed the last 3 years. Our divorce went smoother than I ever expected, not because it lacked tension, but because Tessa had nothing left to fight with. Elira Grant, my attorney, moved like a chess grandmaster who'd already won the game 3 moves ago. She walked into mediation wearing navy heels sharp enough to draw blood and a tailored suit that said she wasn't here to negotiate. She didn't smile. She didn't small talk. She opened her folder like a judge raising a gavel. Tessa arrived late. She looked thinner, paler, wearing makeup she hadn't bothered to blend properly. The kind that wasn't for confidence, but camouflage. Her lawyer was some local guy, polite, not incompetent, but no match for Elira. You can see it in the way he flipped nervously through his binder while Elira arranged her files without even glancing up. We didn't start with drama. Elira made sure of that. 3 years of infidelity. With documentation. Funded by joint accounts. Photos. Receipts. Messages. Hotel reservations. An affair so brazen it was practically branded, she said flatly. My client has chosen not to pursue public humiliation. Yet, Tessa's lawyer cleared his throat. We're not here to deny wrongdoing. Only to discuss fair terms moving forward. Elira looked at me briefly, then back at them. Good. Because my client is walking out of this room with his retirement intact, his vehicle, and full ownership of the Midtown property. He will also retain the contents of the joint savings account as of the date the divorce was filed. Your client will receive no alimony. None. She waived that right when she used marital funds for a long-term extramarital affair. Tessa opened her mouth, then closed it. Her lawyer whispered something to her. She looked down at the table. No assets, she asked softly. Elira folded her hands. You may keep the debt in your name. We're feeling generous. Tessa turned to me then. You really won't leave me anything? I didn't answer right away. I just stared at her. At the woman who once danced barefoot in our kitchen at midnight, who once asked me to build a life with her, and then took a sledgehammer to the foundation while laughing. This isn't punishment, I said finally. It's freedom. For both of us. The mediator, a sharp-eyed older woman who had seen every variation of human ugliness, could end with the final verdict. 3 years of cheating is not a mistake. It's a decision. Tessa winced like the word stung. But she didn't argue. Maybe she finally understood that this wasn't some fight she could manipulate her way through. This wasn't a marriage counseling session where she could cry and redirect. This was accountability. Cold. Legal. Final. When it was over, she signed the papers with trembling hands. I signed mine with steady ones. We left the building without speaking. She went one way, I went the other. It wasn't a goodbye, it was a severance. A curtain drop after a play that ran too long. I didn't look back. Neither did she. She moved in with her parents. I knew because her mother texted me to say they were trying to help her rebuild. I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but because I was done being responsible for her. I wasn't her crutch anymore. I wasn't her audience. She would have to rebuild without the scaffolding of my patience. Tessa tried, in her own way, to spin it all publicly. She posted moody black and white photos. Captions like, growth comes from pain, and sometimes you lose what you thought you needed to find yourself. Her curated digital life turned into a scrapbook of damage control. But the likes faded. Her comments went quiet. People stopped clapping for her reinvention. Even Jay deleted her. That's how I knew it was real. Meanwhile, I went back to breathing. Not surviving. Breathing. My apartment, once bare and utilitarian, began to feel like home. I started sleeping through the night. Started reading again. Laughing again. Sometimes I'd stand on the balcony, cup of tea in hand, just watching the city below and thinking, this is peace. This is mine. I went on walks with Tobias and his kid. I made pancakes on Saturdays just because I could. I deleted her contact. Deleted the backup folders with the evidence. Not because I forgave her, but because I didn't need them anymore. They weren't protection anymore. They were dead weight. I wasn't angry. I was done. The silence in my life was no longer heavy. It was sacred. And that was the biggest one of all. Elira sent a follow-up email a week later, all terms finalized. You're officially free. I read that line 5 times. Then I closed my laptop and went to take a walk. No destination. Just movement. Because I wasn't escaping anymore. I was moving forward. 6 months passed. That chapter of my life, her chapter, faded behind me like a half-read book left on a shelf I never planned to revisit. The air around me felt lighter. Quieter. Real. I didn't wake up tense anymore. Didn't flinch at the buzz of a phone. I lived. Slowly. Intentionally. Each day felt like new breath pulled into lungs that had forgotten how to expand. So when I saw her again, it wasn't like some dramatic twist. It was random. Accidental. Almost underwhelming in its ordinariness. It was a Saturday. I was at Home Depot, of all places, hunting for screws and brackets to hang a floating shelf in the living room. The kind of task I used to resent, because it always ended with Tessa criticizing my handiwork. It's crooked, she'd say, hands on her hips. Just let someone else do it next time. She never understood that some things were worth doing yourself, even if they weren't perfect. I was waiting outside, sipping from a paper cup of too hot coffee when I heard my name. Caleb. I turned. She was standing there beside her car, keys dangling in her hand, her expression somewhere between startled and unsure. Her hair was shorter now, shoulder length and unstyled, like she'd traded vanity for reality. She wore a beige jacket over faded jeans and old sneakers. No makeup. No ring. She looked different. Not older. Not worse. Just real. Like she'd finally stepped out of her own curated shadow. I almost didn't recognize you, she said, walking toward me slowly, like she thought I might disappear. I nodded. Hey, Tessa. She stopped a few feet away, fiddling with her keys. I didn't think I'd run into you. I mean, I'm moving. Leaving for Chicago next week. Chicago? Yeah, she said with a weak smile. Fresh start. Got a new job. Nothing glamorous, but steady. Quiet. There was an awkward silence. Not tense, just unfamiliar. I'm glad you're doing all right, she added. You look good. Peace suits you. I studied her for a moment. There was something honest in her face now. A softness I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't manipulation. It was clarity. Maybe even regret. Thanks, I said. I am all right. Took a while. She nodded. I was drifting to the sidewalk like it was easier to look at than me. I wanted to tell you something before I go. Okay. I'm sorry. The words didn't hit like bullets. They didn't spark anything in me. They just settled quietly in the space between us. I know it's too late, she continued. I know I don't deserve to be forgiven. I needed you to hear it. From me. Not because I want anything. Just because I should have said it sooner. I stayed silent. Not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left to say. She took a deep breath. I'd been in therapy. Since the divorce. Weekly sessions. At first, it was just damage control, you know? Trying to fix the version of me I thought people wanted to see. But eventually, it became real. I started seeing how much of myself I'd been hiding behind performance. I didn't interrupt. I ruined something good, she said. Something steady and kind and patient. I know that now. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I was scared of how real you were. How honest. I didn't know how to hold it without breaking it. And when I broke it, I laughed, because I didn't know how else to survive what I'd done. She looked up then, eyes glassy but dry. I know it doesn't matter now, but I did love you. I just didn't know how to love myself. That was the first time she'd ever said anything like that. Back then, she would have wrapped a line like that in sarcasm, buried it under jokes or deflection. But this was raw, vulnerable, almost painful to witness. I nodded. Slowly. Thank you for saying that. She looked relieved. Just a little. We stood in silence again, the kind that used to feel unbearable between us, but now felt like closure. The cars passed. A shopping cart squeaked its way across the lot behind her. A breeze cut through the space, cold but clean. She smiled once more, faint, humble, and turned to walk away. Take care of yourself, Caleb. You too, Tessa. And that was it. No embrace. No hug. No backward glance. Just the end of a conversation that needed to happen far later than it should have, and yet exactly when it was supposed to. She climbed into her car and drove off, disappearing into traffic. I didn't follow her with my eyes. I didn't stand there holding the moment like it was precious. I just took another sip of my coffee, walked back inside Home Depot, and found the screws I came for. She was a chapter, but I have become the author again. My apartment feels like a home now. Not just four walls and a mattress thrown over a bed frame. Not a temporary shelter from a storm, I mean a real home. The kind that holds your peace without needing to hold your pain. The kind that doesn't echo with another person's lies or press invisible hands around your throat every time you walk into the kitchen. There's quiet here. A soft, honest kind of quiet. I never knew how heavy the noise was until it was gone. The shelf I built 6 months ago hangs straight on the living room wall. I smile every time I pass it. Not because it's perfect, it's not, but because it stayed up. I did it myself, and no one rolled their eyes or second-guessed the level or pointed out a half-millimeter flaw like it was some moral failing. It's just mine, like everything in this space now. The couch, the books, the coffee mugs, even the way the morning light falls across the floor at 7:30, every inch of it is mine. I've started dating again. Nothing serious. No declarations or rushing. Just small, simple connections. Coffee dates. Conversations that aren't weighed down by manipulation or performed intimacy. No pretending. No dodging truth. It's strange how refreshing honesty feels when you've lived so long beneath a mask. I don't compare them to her. I don't need to. What I'm looking for now isn't a replacement. It's something entirely different. Peace. I kept the evidence folder longer than I should have. The one with all the texts, the receipts, the photos that tore my marriage in two. At first, I told myself it was for protection. That if anything happened, I needed it as leverage. Then I said it was closure. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the betrayal. But lately, it felt like dead weight. Like a room in my mind that never stopped smelling like smoke, long after the fire was out. Last week, I opened it one more time. Scanned through the contents. I thought it might hurt again, seeing it all laid out. But it didn't. I felt nothing. No rage. No sadness. Just distance. Like I was looking at someone else's tragedy. A man I used to be. A man who needed those files to keep his sanity intact. And so I deleted them. Every screenshot. every forwarded message, every timestamp and bank statement. Not out of forgiveness, but out of freedom. Because holding on was never about justice. It was about fear. About clinging to proof in case someone ever dared to doubt my story. But the truth is, I don't need proof anymore. I lived it. I survived it. And I walked away stronger. The best revenge was never about destroying Tessa. It wasn't about exposing her to the world or seeing her beg. That might have satisfied something primal in me at first, but long-term, that kind of revenge burns everything, including yourself. The best revenge was becoming someone who no longer needed to remember her. Someone who could walk through his own space, cook dinner in silence, laugh at dumb sitcoms, and fall asleep without questioning whether the person beside him was telling the truth. Someone who stopped being a character in someone else's twisted play and started writing his own script. I saw a quote the other day, framed in the bookstore near my apartment. It said, "Sometimes the closure you need is the door you close yourself." I stood there staring at it for a full minute. Then I walked out without buying it. I didn't need to hang it on my wall. I was already living it. I still think about her sometimes. Not often. Just moments. Little flashes. A song she used to hum. A recipe we used to mess up together. A place we visited once, now appearing in a friend's photo. But those thoughts don't twist anymore. They don't pull. They just pass. Because some people aren't meant to stay. They're meant to break you just enough to make room for who you were always supposed to become. And I've become someone better. Stronger. Clearer. Calmer. I look at myself in the mirror now, and I see a man who isn't bitter, just wiser. A man who doesn't lower his standards for company or settle for chaos just because it comes wrapped in charm. I'm not the Caleb who begged for attention. I'm not the Caleb who apologized for asking questions. I'm not the Caleb who mistook proximity for love. That man died the night the couch lost its honor. The man who stands now? He's someone no one gets to laugh at and walk away from. Someone who knows what it costs to rebuild and pays it in full, brick by brick, without regret. She thought I was too stupid to notice. Turns out, I was just too strong to react. And now, I'm too far gone to ever look back.